gonna let people join. Okay, great. Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Tian August. I work here at Stony Brook in the undergraduate admissions office. And thank you for joining us this afternoon for the summer workshop event, Academic Tutoring and Student Accessibility Services. I am so excited that you're choosing to spend some time with us this afternoon, and I'm also super excited about our two presenters today who will be sharing lots of useful information about services that Stony Brook has to offer our students. And before I begin, I just want to let you know that if you have any questions throughout the event, feel free to chat them to any of the admissions counselors in the chat named Ask a Question, and we will either chat you back or send your question to one of the presenters to answer live on video. And this event is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it tomorrow on our YouTube page. And the link we'll share with you in an email that you'll get at the conclusion of this event. So again, thanks for joining us. And without further ado, I'll let our presenters introduce themselves. Take it away, Wendy and Shannon.
Unmuting myself, see, I'm learning all this. Hi, everybody, I'm Wendy Matthews. I'm the Director of Student Accessibility Support Center. I started here at Stony Brook about 8 years ago. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I started here actually in the office as being a counselor, and about 2 years ago, I took over as director. And it's been an amazing experience. I'm so excited to have, new Seawolves and returning Seawolves coming back onto campus. It's actually really nice today. I've been watching everyone move in. So it's been a great experience to kind of see the activity kind of coming back onto campus. Shannon, why don't you introduce yourself and then we can bring it back to me.
Sure. So I'm Shannon Jane. I'm the Director of the Academic Success and Tutoring Center. I've been at Stony Brook for, I don't even know, 13 years. I should probably know that. I might have made that up. But yeah, so, and I've actually worked in various parts of the university, but I've been the Director of the Academic Success and Tutoring Center since 2013 when we created the center.
And I'm so excited that Shannon and I get to present together because a lot of what we do overlaps, and I'm sure we refer plenty of times back and forth. So it's really nice that we get to present together to all of you today. I'm just going to share my screen with everybody really quick. It is my cheat sheet, so hold on, let me just do that. Can I get a thumbs up if you can all see this? Good, great. Shannon's my go-to right there to check it's working. So as I said, I'm from Student Accessibility Support Center. You can find my email on here. You can feel free to email me even after this presentation, and you can also find our website on there as well. So as I said, we're Student Accessibility Support Center, but we like to call ourselves SASSY. So we always do the little snap with it too. So what is SASSY? So as I said, it's Student Accessibility Support. We offer accommodations for students. So that could be an academic accommodation. It could be a housing accommodation. It could be a classroom accommodations. And this is for students with disabilities. It's really trying to give students equal access. We like to say leveling the playing field. And it gives everything that Stony Brook has to offer. Some disabilities could be a psychological disability, could be a learning disability, it could be a medical disability. There are also temporary disabilities. I always say students, if they go out on a Thursday night, sometimes on a Friday, I have a broken hand or some sorts. So it can be, a spectrum of different types of disabilities. So what does accessible mean? And I always think it's important to say, what does accessible mean? Because it's important for all of us to know what does that mean. So as I said, it's providing that equal playing field that we were talking about. It's being able to make sure that things are being equally effective and integrated in an equal manner, and that it's equivalent for everyone to be able to use. And this is really important for for any individual. I love to say, you know, as Stony Brook, we're really trying to go in a more inclusive design as far as how we're giving the student experience so that all students can have the same access to all the different materials. And this allows individuals, not just with disabilities, but also without disabilities, to have a full, equal, and independent, successful experience. I always love this statement, so I always put it on there, is find your ability through accessibility. I love the way it sounds. I've used it for years. So what do we do? So we work collaboratively with students, faculty, and staff to create an inclusive educational environment here at Stony Brook. As I said, we work with all different types of disabilities that I had mentioned to you. Students will, in their initial meeting, they will come in and they will meet with one of the counselors here, and they'll discuss the documentation that they have. The documentation could be educational documentation, if there's a learning disability maybe. It could be housing documentation. It could be classroom or other accommodations. Students would register with us every semester that they're here. And when we say register, I don't need new documentation. The one time you come in to provide us the documentation, that's the time that I need. And then each semester you get to renew with us, and it allows us to check in with the students to see how everything is going. We're a really small office, which is really nice because we get the opportunity to get to know all of our students. And I love when I can see a student as a freshman and then they're graduating as a senior and I've seen all the progress they made. There's no rewarding feeling better than that. So how do you register, you know, with our department? So the way that a student registers is they go to our website. I'm actually going to show it to you. I'm going to try to multitask on this. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to stop my share for 1 second, see if this works. Let's see how crafty I can be. I think it's important for you to be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you my website. Share screen. Here we go. You're going to see a whole bunch of fun students on here. So what you're going to do for students that need to register for us, they're going to go to the online form section. And then you're going to see here it says an intake form. What the intake form is, it's identifying data for me. It allows me to know who you are, how I could get in contact with you. You would submit that form along with the required documentation. So the required documentation could be a documentation of disability form, which is what we talked about. So that could be something for a classroom accommodation, a housing accommodation. And then you're going to see also the residence hall adjustment form here too. And what these forms look like, I'm going to pull it up. So this first part is for a provider, just to read through. The second part is really what we're looking at. So you can see that it asks the provider, what's the diagnosis? It talks about what the limitations are. How does the disability impact the person's major life activity? How does it impact their educational experience? And then it gives us the recommendations that the provider is doing. And basically what we'll do is, as I was saying with the initial meeting, we have that meeting, we're looking over the documentation your provider sent, along with speaking to the student to get your own ideas of what does it mean for you to be successful here, and what accommodations would you need put in place in order for you to be able to do that. Let me just pull this back up really quick. Let's see if this works again. Okay, so as I was saying, so you'd have the documentation filled out, and then you would end up meeting with one of the counselors. The counselors would go through with you what accommodations need to be done. And let me just pull this down if it will let me. And once we, have our meeting, that's where, as I said, we would decide the accommodations. Those letters then go out to your faculty. And in the faculty letter, it doesn't say why you're registered with us. That's all confidential. So at no point are we revealing, a student's disability to anyone. The accommodation letter would go out to the faculty member, which is basically just saying that Shannon is registered with SASE and that these are the following accommodations. And then, after that, if students have questions, we're here. As I said, we're a small department. So if you're having difficulties communicating with your faculty member, we're here to help you. So you would come in, you'd have an assigned counsel that you'd be working with. You'd let that counselor know that you need assistance. And then that counselor would work with you and the faculty member to make sure that your accommodations are being put in place. And sometimes we have students that will come in and they'll say, you know, I'm just not exactly sure what resources are available on campus. We're here to help you with that. We know all the resources on campus. That's why we actually, you know, refer to Shannon quite a bit, because we want students to be able to be successful, and we want them to be their best selves, their best version of themselves. So we'll refer you to wherever you need to go onto campus. And if we don't know, we'll find out that information for you. And then other than that, we also run some programming. So we actually got into a lot of virtual programming over the past spring semester. So you can find that we'll have some, we're having an origami with one of our student workers, which is great. We're also doing a de-stress event. We'll do a virtual kind of CAPS PALS event, which is basically like an animal therapy kind of event. But we're going to do a lot of things to offer students, and allows you guys to connect with one another. And that's so important, because here at SASE, we're trying to provide you all with a community as well. So we have these events to offer you. We also offer a mentoring program where I pair new incoming students with upperclassmen. And basically what, you know, their job is to meet with the mentee at least once a week. And as the mentor, they provide programming. So they'll do events for you guys. They'll have like drop-in virtual lunches and drop-in virtual dinners where you can connect with the other mentors. And it's really important because it's over topics of like how to be a student, how to use Blackboard, how do I sign up for my classes? And they're here to assist you with that. And it's really helpful to sometimes hear it from a peer than it is to hear it from me. So we found this peer mentoring program to be really successful. It's actually going on our 3rd year, and we're super proud of it. Another thing that we offer here, we actually have the first ever SUNY sensory room. So this is actually, as I said, the first one to ever be on a SUNY campus. And basically what we provide there is a place for students to de-stress, and it has different type of manipulative kind of activities that provides, you know, stimulation, but also relaxation. So you can find some bubble walls in there. You can find some game chairs. You can find, you know, different activities. We have some meditation books in there. So even though we're not really going to be open, because we just actually moved into a new location, we're actually hopefully going to get this online so you can actually have a virtual experience of it. So we're going to try to do that for you guys in the fall semester. So at least even though you physically can't come in right now, we'll be able to get you there virtually. So that's a little bit about our services and what we do. I have, as I said, our websites on here. It has, you know, if you have any questions, I think you can ask them at the end of the presentation, I think we said. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon, who's going to talk more about the Tutoring Center.
Great. I'll let you, do you want to unshare? Great. All right, there we go. So as I mentioned before, I'm Shannon Jane. I'm the director of the Academic Success and Tutoring Center. I'm just going to do an overview of our main services. Again, there's going to be time for you to ask questions at the end, so please ask away. So let's just get started. So at the Academic Success and Tutoring Center, we call ourselves the ASTC, and our first main service is course-based tutoring. When you think Tutoring Center, this is probably what you think about. We offer tutoring, course-based tutoring. It's free, one-on-one or small group. Most of our tutoring is one-on-one because that's what students have been requesting, but we do have that small group option because I know a lot of students do like that environment. We offer tutoring for a variety of undergraduate classes, and that list changes every semester slightly based on which courses are being offered and who we have on staff as our tutors. So our tutors are peers. They're students who have taken the class, they've done really well in the class, and they have a faculty recommendation on file. So they know the course content and they meet with us. We have an extensive training program to make sure that they know how to tutor. So, you know, all of our tutoring through our center is actually appointment based. You have to sign up for them in advance, and we highly encourage students to make weekly appointments. You'll be meeting with the tutor the same time every week. So that is our, you know, main tutoring service. And again, when you think tutoring center, that's probably what you're thinking about. Now, in addition to course-based tutoring, we also offer something called skill-based tutoring. Course-based focuses on the course content. Skill-based tutoring focuses on the overall academic success strategies that you can use in any class. So some of the popular topics are time management, goal setting, study skills, test taking skills, how to use campus resources. Now those are very individualized and specific. So those appointments are always one-on-one, but just like course-based, we really encourage students to meet with their tutors every single week. So in addition to course-based tutoring and skill-based tutoring, we also offer something called peer-assisted learning, or PAL. PAL is supplemental instruction, and basically how it goes is we have PAL leaders. They're students who have taken the classes before. They sit in and actually experience the class again this semester so that they can see how it's being instructed this semester. Then they meet with a faculty member from the department so that they can understand where students might be challenged this semester. Then they meet with us on a weekly basis and we train them on collaborative learning strategies. Basically what they do is they hold group kind of informal sessions where they help students work together to get a deeper understanding of some of the challenging material and help the students really apply that information that they're learning in class. So those are three main services. The fourth one is actually a class, not necessarily a service. It's called ASC 101. It's a public speaking class. So it's a very small class. There's only 9 students in it. It's only 6 weeks long. It is 0 credits. That sounds a little weird, but that's because it fulfills a curriculum requirement. So because it's only 6 weeks long, it doesn't have a credit attached to it, but it does fulfill something that you need for your curriculum. So those are our 4 main services. Now, in addition to those, we actually have other partnerships to help expand our services. So one of them is called Star New York. This is a partnership that we have with other SUNY campuses. Now, our services, as I mentioned, are appointment-based. They're also traditionally in person. This semester, because of the situation, they are all online. However, once we do move back to in-person services, we still have an online component through this Star New York collaboration. So again, we partner with other SUNY campuses. It is online tutoring for a variety of subject areas, and it's in the evening. So Sunday through Thursday, 7 p.m. till midnight. In addition to that partnership, we have a partnership with campus residences and residential programs. They have something called RTCs, or Residential Tutoring Centers. They are a drop-in service. And what's really great about this partnership is that all of their tutors meet the same exact requirements as our tutors, and they go through the same training. So now that we have the appointments, we now have the ability to offer students this drop-in tutoring. And again, the tutors are all meeting the same requirements and having the same training. So in addition to all of that, there are other services. So we offer a lot of support at Stony Brook. We have departments who actually host, they're either called learning centers or help rooms. So each department who has a learning center or help room, they decide how they manage that. Most of the time it's drop in with either teaching assistants or faculty, where students can, again, drop in and ask any questions that they have about the content, about the class. And then, of course, what we always tell students is that, a really great resource if you have any questions about your classes, the best resource is your faculty member, is your professor. So, definitely take advantage of everything, but make sure that you're making that connection with your professors. They have office hours where they're expecting students to drop in and ask questions. And a lot of them have teaching assistants. So these are students who are helping them with their classes. And so they might also have office hours where they're expecting you to come in and ask questions. And all of these services are great. I think that you should take advantage of all of them. Don't just pick one. If they're available to you, take advantage of them. And I just realized there's one thing that I didn't mention that I need to mention is we also have a writing center on campus that focuses solely on writing. So there's a whole center on campus that you can take advantage of as well. And now this is a lot of information, and it seems like it might be hard to kind of grasp everything that you have here at Stony Brook. But on our our website, which is stonybrook.edu/tutoring, you can find all of this information, not just about our services, but also about all of the other services on campus. So I highly recommend that you take a look at the website, review all the programs, review all the services that are available to you. And if you maybe don't get a chance to ask a question here, but you have another question, please feel free. You can find our email address and our phone number. Give us a call, send us an email, and we'll definitely be able to help you. So I think it's the question and answer time. We're just going to wait. So I know that some people have been asking questions in the chat section. Again, if you have any questions, just make sure that you're chatting something that says ask a question, and then we'll be able to see it.
So I think I have a question from me here. So I'm gonna take the lead on that one. So can students without disabilities use the resources, I think, that I was referring to? So students that are registered with our department are able to use our services. However, I will tell you things like the sensory room, I'm pretty optimistic that we might be able to bring that more global to the campus community. But I think we'll know more about that hopefully in, more of the spring semester. But, with Shannon's services and everything else, that's not tied to me. That's completely separate. Students can, all students can be able to use that. If a student doesn't have a diagnosis, that was another question, how could they register with us? So there are times that students maybe did not have accommodations prior to coming to Stony Brook. A lot of times we work with students who have had accommodations in high school or maybe at their community college. But there are times that students come to us and, a disability can happen at any point, which is so important to know. At any point, any one of us can become disabled. So as far as that, we will work with students at any point. And sometimes it's just coming in and having a conversation. So we'll sometimes do what we call provisional accommodations, which will allow students to be able to get the proper documentation that they'll need for us to be able to continue with those accommodations. And so we'll have you come in and meet with a counselor and discuss all of that and discuss, if you are able to get, those services. Somebody asked, where are we located? We are located right now in the brand new Student Union, Suite 107. It's really pretty over here. It's the first time I'm here this last week. I have a window. I haven't had a window before. This is amazing. But you can come in, you can schedule an appointment with us either by phone or through Zoom right now. And if for some reason you need to come in for an appointment, we can schedule that over the phone on a case by case basis. I do have another question. Shannon, do you mind if I keep going through my questions? Okay. So is this confidential? So yes, so our services are confidential. You'll meet with one of the counselors here. They are the ones who have access to, the disability related information. We do not share that information with faculty members. We let them know that these are the accommodations for the students. We do provide a lot of educational workshops for our faculty on, how do you work with an individual who's coming to you, with a disability. And obviously, we're always talking to the faculty about, how do you keep that confidential, not announcing anything in front of the class. If you need to speak to the students, speak to them, privately, maybe in office hours or through email. So, we do keep it as confidential. And if there ever is a point that somebody has had an experience, otherwise they would come to me and I basically would speak to the professor regarding any concerns with that. But I will tell you more often than not, the faculty they're really wonderful and they're really trying to help the students. And there are so many times that faculty will come to me and I'll send a letter to them saying that the student has an accommodation. And they'll come to me and be like, Wendy, they haven't used their accommodations, and I really want to help them. How do I do that? So the faculty are really caring and they want to help you. And I encourage you that if you do need accommodations, that you do register with us, because the one thing about accommodations is they're not retroactive. So they don't go backwards. So if you register, for example, if you don't come to me till November and you had difficulty in September, October, there's not much I can do with that because they would start from November going forward. As far as accommodations, I know people are concerned regarding, being online, being in person. we work with it no matter what. So accommodations, they can be done online, they can be done in person. I know I mentioned some of the accommodations like the academic ones, but that could be extra time on exams. And we can work with faculty on making sure a student gets that, online or in person. We do offer on a case-by-case basis testing services. So if a student cannot get their extra time on an exam through the faculty in some way, we are still going to be doing some sort of proctoring in person and possibly some virtual proctoring as well. So we're still here for you no matter what. So somebody asked about a 504 plan and if that can transfer to SBU. So I'm a person of, I love to see the 504s and the IEPs. I think it's important, but sometimes it's not the sole piece of documentation that I'm looking for. So if there is an additional documentation that the student might have, maybe they have a provider that they're seeing, or maybe they have some educational testing that was done, maybe a psychoeducational or a neuropsych. I ask for that in addition to the 504, because I do think that the 504 or the IEP holds value. But it can't be usually my sole piece of documentation because it really doesn't go into the functional limitations or sometimes even the disability. Somebody asked if a parent could be involved and how would that work. So there are plenty of times that we have parents that are, in on meetings with us. That's up to the student's preference. If a student wants their parent to be involved in their meeting, we actually have a release form that you would sign that would allow us to speak to your parent going forward. So once you kind of step foot on this campus, if a parent calls me and says, "Oh, can you give me information on my child?" I can't release that information to them without getting your consent on that. So it's different than the FERPA release form that you'll find over in the registrar's office. This is a separate release form just for SASE. And it allows me to be able to speak to any parent or a guardian or anybody else that the student, needs me to speak with. But in the meantime, if you want your parent to be on your initial registration call, they absolutely can. That's not a problem. I have one more.
Jump in. Oh, you have one more? Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, and then I'll stop and I'll give it to you. If a student, okay, so someone's asking me about like specific accommodations based on a disability. So one of the things that we do is we don't base it on a disability. It's not like a one fits all kind of model because different people might be impacted by their disability differently. So something that somebody might have might work for them, but maybe not for someone else. So I would say that, for a student that's looking to register with us, to have them come in, speak to the counselor. I will tell you our most common accommodations are usually surrounding testing and students needing the extra time, but there's plenty of other things that we offer. We do like even assistive technology kind of stuff. So sometimes students have difficulty as far as with note taking, and there are programs and services that we can offer those students, but I would encourage them to come in, meet with a counselor, and they can go through based on that interactive process of meeting the student and the documentation to talk about what would be best for that student. All right, Shannon, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right, so I'm getting several questions. I'm gonna start with some of the simple ones. One question was talking about how our services are going to be offered this semester. So yeah, so our services for this semester will be online. So fully online, that is our tutoring and our peer assisted learning. We did transition to online at the end of the spring. It went really well. We actually got a lot of really great feedback from our tutors and our tutees. That's what we call students who take advantage of our services. So yes, we will be continuing using Zoom. And right now, Zoom does not actually have a closed captioning feature that we can use. So if you do prefer that, if you need it or want it, we will be able to accommodate you using a different, like maybe using Google, because they do have the closed captioning. So please reach out to us if you need that. And yes, that's even our course-based tutoring. So all of our tutoring will be online. Somebody asked, how long are tutoring sessions and do you get to choose? So all of our tutoring appointments are an hour in length. That is a really great time. If it seems like a long time for you, it actually isn't. It's a really great amount of time to cover a good amount of information. So we do allow students to have up to 3 hours of course-based tutoring and 1 hour of skill-based tutoring a week. So that could be 4 hours that you're working with a tutor. And those 3 hours you get to use how you choose. So if it's 3 hours all for the same course, that's fine. If you want to break it up and have 3 different courses, you can do that as well. But each appointment is an hour in length. So somebody asked if they want to be a tutor in the future, is it a volunteer position or is it paid? It's paid. I mean, if you want to volunteer, that's great. But no, we'll pay you. So our tutors, again, as I mentioned, they're students, they have a 3.2 or higher cumulative GPA. A B+ or higher in the course, and a faculty recommendation on file. So many of our tutors are, former TAs for, some of the, I know, especially for our chemistry tutoring, a lot of them were TAs in the past. You can't TA. So again, TA is teaching assistant. You can't be a teaching assistant and a tutor for the same course in the same semester. But again, if you were a teaching assistant in the past, you can definitely tutor that class in a different semester. But yeah, and we have, over 100 student staff every semester. This is, we are a peer-led service, so we need students. So definitely, if that's something that you're interested in, please, go to our website, look at all the information, and kind of figure out how you can move forward with that, because we kind of encourage our students, like if you know that you want a tutoring job, make sure during those classes, you're going to those office hours, you're getting to know the professor, because you're going to ask them for a recommendation. So it's really good to do that during the semester so they know exactly who you are, and that, yes, they're going to recommend you for a tutoring position. Tutoring is available for all undergraduate students. If you have to be enrolled in the course in order to request tutoring for that course. I know that sounds like, yeah, that makes sense. But we did have in the past, like, hey, I'm going to take Orgo next semester. Can I get tutoring this semester? No, that's not how it works. We reserve it for students who are actually taking the class this semester. And it's a very active experience. So tutoring is not about getting your homework done or, doing a take-home test together. Our tutors are not allowed to work on graded assignments. And really, it's because the main focus is making sure that you understand the material and that you can do what you need to do without a tutor there. So they're going to be challenging you by asking you questions and making you think critically. And, it's a really great peer relationship. And again, they know what it's like to be a student. So they know kind of, how to break it down and how to get a better understanding of the material that you're learning in that class. Yes, all of our tutors are students. We don't have professional tutors on our campus. And yes, we do have group tutoring sessions. So we do, for our office, for our appointments, it's 3 or less students, 3 or fewer. And that is by request. So when you make an appointment with our center, it's always a one-on-one appointment. And then you get to request if you want to add students to it. You can either add students that you know from class, or you can say just open it up for anybody in class, because, I want to meet new people and learn from them. So you can absolutely do that. And how do you schedule them? That's a really good question. Is there an app? Yes. So Stony Brook University uses something called Navigate, and all incoming students are told about it during orientation. There's a desktop version that you can use, and there's an app called Navigate Student. So it's a very easy scheduling system, and there's other ways, like you can interact with it in other ways too. I know that some of the advising units are on it, so you can make academic advising appointments on there as well. And it's a really great way to, again, really quick on your phone, make those appointments, see what your schedule is, cancel appointments if you need to. So we do have that available for students. I think that was most of them. Oh. Wendy, do you have any more questions coming in?
I do. I have to say, first of all, you guys are asking excellent questions. This is fantastic. So somebody asked if family would be notified if they registered with us. No, it's confidential. So even if, a parent calls up and says, oh, is Shannon, registered? Did she send out her accommodation letters this semester? Unless I have a release, I can't share any of that information. So nobody needs to know that. As far as the accommodations, how do faculty know about them? So every semester, as I said, students come in, they'll meet with their counselor, they'll go over what accommodations they need and for what class. What I love about the accommodations is that, as I said to you before, like there's no kind of one way of doing it. So some students might find that for one class they need accommodations, but maybe for another class they don't. And we can tailor that to how the student needs them to be. So once you do that with your counselor here, the counselor will then send out an accommodation letter to the faculty. And as I said, it's confidential. It just says that this is the student's information as far as the accommodation. And then if the faculty have questions, they can certainly contact us regarding them. But every semester students are asked to do that. What I do encourage all students to do though is, you don't want to just be a number to a student. You don't want to just be a student ID number. So I would encourage you that, I would reach out to your faculty, and you can do that right now through, virtual office hours or through email. And you can let the faculty know, I just want to let you know I'm registered with SASE, and you should have received an accommodation letter from them. It kind of also provides a checks and balances system, because we do this all through email and everything else. And I will say sometimes there's user errors and faculty maybe have skipped over the email. So by you kind of checking and us sending it, just kind of make sure that the accommodation letters are being received. Somebody asked if we offer counseling. So it's kind of deceiving, right? Because I say the counselors, here. So we will provide more counseling around the academic supports of everything. So, making sure the students are connected for resources. We might do, a little bit of working with the student on kind of executive functioning skills. We might refer them to Shannon for some of that too, and, her peers. But there's also a counseling center on campus, and that's called CAPS. It's Counseling and Psychological Services. And they actually, if you go onto their website, I think it's probably stonybrook.edu/CAPS. But they offer counseling there, and they also offer, they offer their regular counseling hours. They will be virtually this in the fall. But they also offer a 24-hour helpline too. So if students are out of the traditional hours, they can certainly get connected with, any type of crisis counselor that they might need. But I would definitely, encourage students, if you're thinking you're needing counseling, to get in there early, because, they do get quite busy, especially midterms and finals. We all experience stress at all different times in our lives, and it's really good to be able to have somebody that you can talk to about, transitioning to Stony Brook, the stress, and just to know that you have an additional support.
All right, so we have a couple more questions about tutoring. So one is, are the tutors handpicked for us, or can we choose who we want to be our tutor? So you have the option, when you go onto our scheduling system, you can actually choose, like do a drop down, and if you've worked with a tutor in the past and you want to see their availability, you can choose just to see their availability. Or if you don't care and you just want to see all the availability for that course and pick what works best for your schedule, you can do that as well. And then there's another question about, so on our website, it says the pay rate for ASTC and RTC tutors start in the fall 2020 as $13.75 per hour. And then there's like more information about you can choose to be paid, volunteer, or earn EXP plus credit. What does that mean? Okay, so let me kind of talk a little bit about our pay rate. So our pay rate this semester is $13.75 per hour for new tutors. We have an internationally recognized tutor certification through the College Reading and Learning Association. So there are 3 different levels, and as our tutors earn their levels of certification, they actually earn raises as well. So that is just the base pay for our new tutors in the fall 2020 semester. And that is actually increasing as the minimum wage increases as well. So once minimum wage gets to that $15 an hour in New York State or on Long Island, then that intro rate will also increase with that. So for anybody who is maybe a rising junior or senior in high school, by the time you get to Stony Brook, that will actually be a higher pay rate to start with. Now the question about paid volunteer or earn EXP plus credit. So I have to tell you, all of our tutors are paid. But if they want to volunteer and not get paid, you can absolutely do that. Or if you would like to earn credit for your experience, you can do that as well. You can earn academic credit for being a tutor. And how you do that is in the curriculum, there is an EXP FP plus requirement, and basically it's an experiential learning component. And so we partner with the Career Center to allow students to take this opportunity as an experiential learning opportunity. And there's more that you will do than just tutoring. There's a lot of reflective questions about what you're learning, and there's definitely a bigger connection with the Career Center because they have like a curriculum that goes along with it. So if you choose to use this as an experiential opportunity, you can. Again, right now, all of our tutors are being paid. So that's why I kind of talked about that before.
Can professional staff be hired?
I'm sorry, we only hire students at this time. What year do you have to be a tutor? You actually, the only time you don't necessarily qualify to apply for a tutoring position is your first semester at Stony Brook, and that's because you need a Stony Brook University cumulative GPA of 3.2 or higher. So once you complete your first semester here at Stony Brook, you can be a tutor that following semester for any of the classes you've already taken at Stony Brook. We actually recommend so that you can start applying that first semester that you're here, and then we'll keep your application on file, and once you get that GPA, and once you get a faculty recommendation on file, we can consider your application. And then how do you apply? So if you go to our website, go to the, Become a Tutor tab, and it'll tell you everything. There is an application that you fill out. There's the form that you will send to the faculty member so they can fill out for the recommendation. And then there is a interview process, and we do have a good number of students applying for our position. We accept applications on a rolling basis. So even if we're not necessarily hiring, like right now, we have filled all of our fall 2020 positions. You could still apply right now, and we're going to keep you on file. So if a position opens, we can consider you. Or when we start doing our recruitment for the spring semester, we already have your completed application on file. And then it says a GPA of 3.2 or higher overall, and in the subject you will tutor. Oh, no, so when we look at your GPA, we're looking at your overall cumulative GPA of 3.2 or higher. So it's not necessarily for that subject or that major. We're just looking for your overall GPA, and then you need a B plus or higher in the course that you want to tutor. So somebody asked a question about writing. We actually, at the Academic Success and Tutoring Center, we ask students to go to the Writing Center. So we cover, we don't cover writing, but the Writing Center does, and it's for a lot of classes, right? So it doesn't have to just be for your Writing 101 class. You are gonna need to have, great academic writing skills for a lot of your classes. So you can actually go to the Writing Center for any of those writing assignments and any of those, questions about writing. And that information is on our website. So if you wanna look and you wanna kind of check out what other services are available, make sure that you go to our website, go to additional campus resources, and you'll be able to see what we have available on campus.
Do you have any more questions, Shannon?
No, you can go.
So somebody had asked me, should they register right away or mid-semester? So you can register with our office anywhere from the beginning of the semester all the way up until the last day of classes. Because remember, after the last day, I can't go retroactive, I can't go backwards. My advice, though, is to register in the beginning, even though you think you might not be needing the services, because it's just easier that if for some reason we know that, at some point you can become symptomatic with your disability, and it's easier to have the accommodations put in place in the beginning so that you're not coming to, us later and saying, oh, I was having difficulty last week and I need help, because sometimes it's harder for us to be able to do that because it could be considered retroactive. So we recommend that you become in the beginning, but as I said, anybody can, become disabled at any point, so you can register with us at any point. Somebody is asking about a support animal on campus. So yes, that's actually handled through our department. So what you would do is you would contact us at either our phone number or through email, and we would give you documentation that would need to be filled out by a treating provider. And again, that documentation would need to explain, the functional limitations, and more information regarding the animal, that is actually the only service that we do that is actually committed. So that is something that once we get the documentation, we have a committee that we go through that information with. What I will tell you is that if that's something that you think you need, to get that to us sooner than later, because it does take time. And so it's not like if you're going to come to campus on a Monday and you give us the documentation on a Friday, that turnaround is not that quick. So it's something that I encourage students to do earlier if they think that that's something that they need that. So similar question, can support animals live on campus if students dorm? Yes, so support animals, they're different than, so you have support animals, so more emotional support animals, and that would be something that is allowed in the dorms in your bedroom space. It's not something, the animal is not brought into the classroom. It's something that, they reside in your current residence. But that's obviously different if it's a service animal. So service animals don't have to go through the ESA process. That is something different.
So I have some questions. Are residential tutors available on weekends? So the residential tutoring centers, they're typically available Monday through Thursday. The Academic Success and Tutoring Center, we typically have Sunday hours. For this fall semester, we are changing our schedule a little bit. So we will have Monday through Friday hours. And right now it's 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Residential tutoring, those are evening hours, Monday through Thursday, so they're usually 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. The Star New York, though, they do have online evening hours, and they do have a Sunday evening shift. So again, 7 p.m. to midnight. So if this is coming from somebody who is incoming this semester, that is relevant information, obviously. If this is somebody who maybe might be coming to Stony Brook a little bit later, I would just say definitely check in at that time because we do adjust to meet the needs of students. So if there's a certain demand, we're gonna try to be as flexible as possible so that we are meeting those demands of the students. Somebody says, do you have tutors for music? So I have to say most of our courses are the entry level math and science classes. It's because that's what we have the highest demand for. But we do have a variety of classes. As I mentioned, every semester it changes based on who we have on staff and what demand we've had. So that can be changed every semester. In the past, there has been a music class that we have covered for this semester. Right now, it's not on our list, but it's not necessarily a subject that we have an array of music classes that we support. When it comes to that, I would absolutely say talk with your faculty members and the TAs for that support. So somebody does mention, I guess, tutoring for high school students. So our office, we only support students who are current undergraduate students at Stony Brook University. Again, as I mentioned, you have to be enrolled in the specific course in order to get tutoring for that. What we typically do if somebody does reach out to us, so we do not share our tutors' information, their personal cell phones or emails or anything like that. But what we have noticed is a lot of our academic departments will have lists on file of graduate students who want to tutor in the community. So what I recommend is if that's something that you're looking for this coming year is to actually call our academic department. So if it's a chemistry class, call our chemistry department. If it's a math class, call our math department. Because a lot of times, again, they have a list of graduate students who are looking to do this. So definitely, take advantage of that. I think that's it. I don't know if I'm missing anything. Do you have anything else?
I do. I have a question, but it's about special equipment if we need it. I'm not exactly sure what that could mean. So, I mean, we don't handle, we don't give out, wheelchairs or crutches or anything like that. But there are things that we, might loan out to student, like maybe assistive technology kind of equipment. If students maybe need the professor to have a mic on because of a hearing impairment, that's something we can do. We have what we call live scribe pen, which allows the student to do some sort of recording for note taking. And there's other different types of assistive tech equipment that might be able to use, but I'm not exactly sure. If the person wants to write again in the chat of any specific special equipment, I might be able to kind of narrow the question down a little bit more. But I will give a plug to Shannon while maybe somebody's writing. I will give a plug to Shannon and her team over there because we refer our students there all the time. Students come to us throughout the whole semester and they'll say, you know, I'm having difficulty. And, you know, we refer, you know, over, you know, to the Academic Success and Tutoring Center, and all the feedback that comes back from the students is all positive, and they have a really good experience. So I do encourage, you know, definitely all students to be able to look into those services because it's so important to be able to do, especially when you're transitioning here. You know, for students, you know, with disabilities, I can speak, you know, a lot about, because you know, you learn a certain way in high school or even sometimes in the community college, and then you come here and that learning is different. And it's really important to be able to, get connected with the tutoring center because they can be able to help you as far as maybe working with the material better, because again, it is a different way of learning.
And just kind of to bounce off of what Wendy was saying, you know, a lot of times I get questions about, you know, how challenging our class is. And, you know, obviously I kind of always bring up this important point that what's challenging for one person might not be challenging for the other, and vice versa. But, you know, I think it's really important to recognize that you will be challenged at Stony Brook. And that's okay. It's part of the learning process. You should be challenged when you're learning. I think the important part is making sure that there's the support that we're offering so that you can get through those challenges and make it a learning experience. And so that's kind of where we come in, and that's where some of the other services that I was talking about come in. And it's a matter of recognizing that you are being challenged, and that, you know, can I get through this on my own and use the techniques that have worked for me in the past, or should I be reaching out to somebody and asking for help? You know, should I be reaching out to a professional and a faculty member, or should I be reaching out to a peer, or both? So I think that, you know, don't be frightened by challenge, and, you know, embrace it a little bit. And it's a little uncomfortable, and we all know that, but recognizing that that's part of the process is really important. And then again, making sure that you're making that effort to reach out and to ask for help is even more important.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And somebody had actually just asked me now, you know, they said that, you know, they hear that the professors can present materials really fast. And I know that that can sometimes be a concern, right? We all learn differently. We all learn at our own speed. But I will tell you that, you know, the faculty, go to the office hours, speak to the faculty, you know, go to your TAs. It's so important to be able to do. And I did mention some assistive tech, and somebody asked me about note taking. And if, you know, through the interactive process, we're seeing that the student might need some note-taking services. There are things that we offer that might be able to, you know, help the students. Something where we have something called Note-Taking Express, and what's so cool about it is you can record something and you upload it to a device, and within 48 hours you have notes, you know, from the lecture, which is really cool. Or it might be something else that we offer. So there are things that we definitely can do to assist students, but I would tell you not to be afraid of that, because you have the support of your professors, you have the support of your TAs, and then if there are additional services that you need, you know, through us, you could certainly be able to do that, or even Shannon's area as well. You know, that's what we're here for.
I did have a question. It's something about, and I can't find it, it's something about how many students use our services and use the services on campus. I can't speak to the other services. I know for the ASTC, we book up very quickly. You know, we are very popular, and there are certain courses that, you know, we know are going to fill up, you know, very quickly. So what I just say to that is making sure that when our schedule opens, you're going online and you are scheduling those tutoring appointments that you need, and don't wait until the last minute. Don't wait until, you know, you don't do well on an exam to kind of say, oh, you know, I knew I needed extra help, but, you know, I wanted to wait. Don't wait, you know, do it in the beginning of the semester. And another thing that I want to mention is that, you know, all the students not everybody is struggling who's using our services. we have, you know, a lot of students who say that they just like the environment and they like working with another student who they know did really well in that class and wants to, like, they took a job to help other students do well in that class. There's something about that relationship and that environment that's created. So you don't necessarily have to be struggling in a class to benefit from tutoring. It's really important to make those connections with peers and to, you know, to have somebody to talk about what you're learning and talk about how you can apply that knowledge.
So I got a clarification on the equipment question. So this is more around like therapy kind of equipment. So we don't offer specialized therapy equipment. I will tell you, pre-COVID, you know, when our sensory room was up and running, we did have things like weighted blankets in there for students. You know, we had different type of you know, stress ball kind of stuff and other sensory items in that room for students to be able to use. I know the person wrote a swing. That's amazing. I've always wanted one. My ceilings here don't qualify for it. But we have other like rocking chairs, and then underneath all the chairs, we actually have bands, because a lot of times students might be, they might fidget, or they might, you know, use it as a stress reliever to kind of like let their legs go. So those are things we kind of integrate within our office and within our space, but we don't loan out any type of equipment for the students.
I think we got through all the questions and it's 4:59, so good timing. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining this event. Thank you for your, again, like Wendy said, these are great questions. Thank you for being engaged. I know that it says if we didn't get to your questions, you can contact us at enroll@stonybrook.edu. You can text 631. Okay, you can see this, everyone. I'm not going to read it. So you can text that number. And as it was mentioned in the beginning, this recording is going to be on Admissions YouTube channel. So if you missed anything and kind of want to watch it again, you will be able to do that. So
and we hope to see you guys as new Seawolves one day.
Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye.